The power of letting go. Alan Watts. There is a paradox at the heart of human existence. The more we try to control life, the more it slips through our fingers. The more we chase happiness, the more elusive it becomes. The more we cling to certainty, the more we realize that nothing is ever truly secure. Alan Watts understood this deeply. He saw that most human suffering does not come from the world itself, but from our desperate attempts to hold on to things that are, by their very nature, impermanent. We cling to relationships, fearing they will change. We cling to identities, terrified they will dissolve. We cling to the illusion that we can plan our way into a perfect life, only to be met with the chaos of existence. But what if the secret to peace, to freedom, to true fulfillment is not in holding on but in letting go? Imagine water in your hands. If you try to grasp it tightly, it spills through your fingers. But if you relax, if you allow it to rest gently in your palm, it remains. This is the essence of life. It cannot be controlled by force, only experienced through presence. And yet, we spend our lives resisting this truth. We fight against change, though change is inevitable. We resist uncertainty, though uncertainty is the very fabric of reality. We try to force life into rigid structures, only to be met with disappointment when things don't go as planned. But Watts would ask us, what if we stopped resisting? What if we embraced the flow of life instead of fighting against it?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
This is not about passivity. It is not about giving up or abandoning all effort. It is about understanding the nature of control, realizing that while we can shape our actions, we cannot dictate the results. A musician does not cling to a single note in fear of losing it. They let it go so the melody can continue. But a dancer does not freeze in place to capture a perfect moment. They move with the rhythm, trusting the next step will come. Life is the same. The more we surrender to its flow, the more beautifully it unfolds. But why is letting go so difficult? Why do we cling, even when it causes us suffering? The answer lies in fear. We fear the unknown. We fear losing what we love. We fear that if we stop trying to control everything, our lives will fall apart. But Watts would remind us, you are not separate from life. You are life itself. The river does not struggle against its current, it moves with it. The tree does not resist the changing seasons, it allows itself to transform. And just like them, we are part of the natural order. Our suffering comes not from life itself, but from our refusal to trust it. But what does this look like in real life? How do we let go when everything in us wants to hold on? How do we trust the flow of life when uncertainty feels terrifying? The answer requires us to go even deeper, to examine the mind, to unravel the illusion of control, and to see that true freedom is not found in certainty, but in surrender. The illusion of control, why we fear letting go and how to transcend it. If we look closely, then we see that our entire existence is built upon an illusion, the illusion that we are in control. From the moment we are born, we are taught that life follows a simple equation: effort leads to reward, hard work guarantees success, careful planning ensures security. And so, we dedicate our lives to controlling outcomes. We strategize, we predict, we prepare. We hold on to relationships, believing that if we just say the right things, do the right things, love the right way, we can prevent them from changing. We set goals, believing that if we follow the perfect path, we can guarantee happiness. We even try to control our own emotions, suppressing what makes us uncomfortable, clinging to what makes us feel good, hoping to manufacture a permanent state of peace. But then something happens. A relationship ends despite our best efforts. A dream crumbles despite years of dedication. An unexpected event shatters the plans we carefully built. And in that moment, we are faced with the truth: the world does not operate according to our desires. Life is not a machine that responds to input with predictable output. It is a wild, flowing, unpredictable force, indifferent to our need for control. And yet, rather than accepting this truth, we resist it. We double down. We try to control even more, hoping that if we just try harder, plan better, hold on tighter, we can force life into submission. But Alan Watts would ask, what if the very act of trying to control life is what makes us suffer? Imagine you are caught in a river. The current is strong, pulling you downstream. If you fight against it, if you thrash, if you try to swim back against the flow, you exhaust yourself. You panic. You sink. But if you surrender, if you allow the current to carry you, you float. You may not know exactly where the river will take you, but you are no longer at war with it. Life is the same way. The more we resist its natural movement, the more we suffer. The more we try to control every outcome, the more anxious we become. The more we cling to certainty, the more fragile we feel. And yet, we have been conditioned to believe that surrender is weakness, that letting go means losing. But Watts would argue the opposite. It is only when we release control that we become truly free. But why do we resist this truth? Why do we cling to the illusion of control, even when it makes us miserable? The answer lies in fear. To let go means to embrace uncertainty, and uncertainty is terrifying. The human mind craves stability, predictability, something solid to hold on to. And so, we construct mental frameworks, belief systems, identities, routines that give us a sense of security. We tell ourselves that we are this kind of person, that our lives will follow this kind of path, that the future is something we can shape entirely through willpower. But life does not conform to our mental frameworks. It dissolves them. It changes us in ways we cannot anticipate. And rather than accepting this, we resist. We cling to old identities, even when they no longer serve us. We stay in situations that make us unhappy simply because they feel familiar. We avoid change, even when change is the only path forward. But Watts would remind us, you are not separate from life. You are life itself. And life, by its very nature, is changing. It is a movement. It is impermanent. The river does not cling to a single point on its journey. It flows effortlessly toward the unknown. The tree does not resist the coming of winter. It sheds its leaves without fear. The ocean does not try to hold onto a single wave. It allows each wave to rise and fall, knowing that more will come. And yet, as human beings, we struggle with this. We cling to what is temporary, hoping to make it permanent. We hold on to moments, hoping to freeze them in time. We fear endings, forgetting that every ending is also a beginning. But how do we let go? How do we surrender to the flow of life when everything in us wants to hold on? The answer is not found in philosophy alone. It must be lived, practiced, embodied. It requires a shift in perception, a radical rethinking of how we engage with reality. And if we can learn this, if we can truly embrace the art of letting go, we will discover a freedom beyond anything control could ever offer. The art of surrender how letting go leads to true freedom. If we want to understand the power of letting go, we must first understand what it means to surrender. The word itself is often misunderstood. To many, surrender sounds like defeat, like giving up, like losing control. We imagine someone who has stopped trying, who has resigned themselves to fate, who has accepted a lesser version of life. But that is not surrender. That is submission. True surrender is something else entirely. It is not passive, it is active. It is a choice. It is the decision to stop fighting reality, to stop resisting the natural flow of life, to stop clinging to illusions that only bring suffering. And in that choice, there is immense power. Surrender is not about giving up effort, it is about giving up attachment to outcomes. This is a crucial distinction. We often believe that if we let go, everything will fall apart. That if we don't control things, they will spiral into chaos. But Watts would remind us, life is already moving. It is already unfolding. You are not its master, but its participant. The ocean does not need to control the waves move on their own. The sun does not need to force itself to rise, it simply does. And you, your existence, your path, your unfolding are not separate from this great movement of life. Yet we hesitate, we struggle, we fear that if we stop clinging, if we stop trying to force things to go our way, we will be left with nothing. But consider this, have you ever held on to something so tightly that it began to hurt you? A relationship that no longer brought joy, but you couldn't let go. A dream that no longer felt right, but you kept chasing it out of fear. An identity that no longer fit, but you refused to release it because you didn't know who you would be without it. This is the cost of attachment. We believe we are holding on to life, but in reality, we are holding on to suffering. Letting go doesn't mean we stop caring. It does not mean we stop working toward our goals or stop investing in the people we love. It means we release the illusion that we can control the way things unfold. It means we stop tying our happiness to specific outcomes. It means we trust life enough to allow it to move through us, rather than trying to force it into a shape of our choosing. And this is where true freedom begins. Because when we let go, we are no longer bound by fear. Fear is the root of our need for control. We fear uncertainty, so we try to predict everything. We fear loss, so we cling to what we have. We fear failure, so we try to guarantee success. But Watts would ask, what if fear is not something to be eliminated, but something to be understood? Fear is simply resistance to the unknown. But the unknown is where life happens. It is where growth happens. It is where love, creativity, and transformation arise. When we let go of control, we are not left with emptiness, we are left with possibility. But how do we practice this? How do we surrender when everything in us wants to hold on? The answer is not in theory, but in action. It begins in small ways, letting go of the need to always be right in a conversation. Letting go of the need to control how others perceive you. Letting go of the habit of overthinking every decision as if the perfect choice will save you from discomfort. It is in these small acts of surrender that we begin to see the truth. We are never really in control, and that is okay. This is not to say we should not take action. Life still requires our participation. But the difference is this: instead of acting from a place of fear, we act from a place of trust. Instead of trying to force life to conform to our expectations, we move with life as it is. And in doing so, we open ourselves to something extraordinary, something that cannot be controlled, but can only be experienced. But what happens when life throws us into uncertainty, into chaos, into deep loss? How do we let go when we are faced with real suffering? This is where the true test of surrender begins. And to understand it fully, we must go even deeper, embracing the unknown, finding peace in life's greatest uncertainties. There will come a time when life pulls the ground from beneath your feet. A moment when everything you thought was certain dissolves before your eyes. Perhaps it will be the loss of someone you love, the sudden collapse of a dream, or the realization that the identity you spent years constructing no longer fits. In these moments, the mind panics. It searches for something to hold on to, some explanation, some way to reverse what has happened. But it resists, it clings, it fights. But resistance does not stop reality, but reality moves forward, unbothered by our protests, carrying us into the unknown whether we are ready or not. And so we are left with a choice. We can fight what is, or we can surrender to it. Surrendering to the unknown does not mean we do not grieve. It does not mean we do not feel pain, sadness, or fear. It means that we do not let our suffering become greater than it needs to be. It means we do not add resistance on top of pain, clinging to what is already gone, demanding that life be different than it is. Pain is inevitable, but suffering the endless mental resistance to reality is a choice. And Watts would remind us, the more we resist change, the more we suffer. But how do we surrender to the unknown when it feels so daunting? How do we find peace in uncertainty when the mind craves stability? The answer is simple, yet deeply difficult. We must stop trying to escape this moment. The mind always wants to project into the future, to solve, to fix, to predict. But the future is not real. It is only a thought, a mental projection. The only thing that exists is this moment, right here, right now. And if we can fully inhabit it, if we can let go of the desperate need to control what comes next, we will find something unexpected, peace. Because peace is not found in certainty. It is not found in knowing exactly how life will unfold. It is found in accepting that we do not need to know. It is found in trusting that whatever comes, we will meet it when it arrives. And in that trust, there is freedom. The freedom to live fully, without the weight of constant worry. The freedom to love without fear of loss. The freedom to embrace life in its entirety, rather than grasping at the pieces we wish to keep. Consider the sky. It does not cling to the clouds that pass through it, it allows them to come and go. The ocean does not grasp at each wave, trying to hold it in place. It lets each one rise and fall, knowing another will follow. And we, too, are meant to live this way, to love, to create, to experience, and to let go, to allow life to move through us, rather than clinging in fear. So the question is this: what are you holding on to that is keeping you from freedom? What fears, what attachments, what illusions of control are weighing you down? And what would happen if, even for a moment, you let them go? Not because you no longer care, but because you trust life enough to stop resisting it. Because you understand that real security is not found in controlling the future, but in embracing the present. This is the power of letting go, not as a passive surrender, but as an active choice. A choice to stop fighting life and start living it. A choice to trust that, no matter what comes next, you are already exactly where you need to be. And in that trust, in that surrender, you will find something far greater than control. You will find peace.